Welcome to Novelist Spotlight, the podcast where published fiction writers are interviewed to gather their insights and writing lessons so we can use them to make ourselves better and more effective writers. There are just 3 things I ask of you, if appropriate to you and your experience. Please subscribe, please click on the like button, and please share this program link with any family members, friends, or colleagues who might be interested or benefit from the content. Now, on with our program. This is my console. In the spotlight, this episode is Steven Spatz, founder and president emeritus of BookBaby, one of the country's many self-publishing houses for book authors. He joins us from New Hope, Pennsylvania, a suburb of Philadelphia, a place my wife and I had visited a couple of years ago, and boy, did my wife fall in love with it. She wanted to move there, right across the Delaware River from Lambertville, New Jersey. Steven, it's a beautiful place. Welcome to the program.
Mike, thank you very much. You know your geography very well. It is a piece of God's country, and I ride my bicycle up and down the Delaware Canal path on both the New Jersey and Pennsylvania side, and I enjoy it. It's away from the hubbub of the city, but the beautiful thing is I can jump on a train in an hour to Philadelphia and 2 hours to New York City, so it's a great spot.
Oh, you know, we jumped in. We had a rental car, and we were in downtown Philadelphia in about 15 minutes, so it was... maybe I was breaking the speed limit, I don't remember, but it's so close to downtown. It's just a great location.
It is
anyway,
nice, yeah.
Let's talk about self-publishing and how it has changed. I mean, I remember the old vanity presses, as they were called, when people would say, well, yeah, you know, you send them your manuscript, they print a book, they send you a box with 100 or 250 books in it, and then what do you do with it? You don't even have room in your house for it. Now you're stuck with all these books and you don't know what to do. Now, this was pre-internet, at least public internet, pre-social media, pre-marketing channels of the sort that we have today. But when you think back to what the old vanity presses were and what self-publishing is today, characterize what was and what is.
Oh, you know, and I'm happy to say the difference is really night and day. And vanity publishing, that's what their job was, to sort of appeal to your vanity, to say that perhaps you've been sending out rejection letters, or you've gotten rejection letters from agents and publishers for years, and you say, by golly, I want to do a book anyway, just to show off my clients, my friends, my ex-wife, whatever it happens to be. And yeah, that's what you do. You contact one of these companies, probably on the back of Writer's Digest magazine back in the 70s, and sure enough, you pay an exorbitant amount, and they hand you some books, and maybe softcover, maybe hardcover, and there you go, wiping your hands clean. And it really just was a very unsatisfactory type of situation, and really unsavory, both in the terms of you're dealing with companies who really don't care about you as an author. They just want to fill up a printing press. And authors just having no other outlet to get their things to the marketplace. But I always view that there's 2 important kind of milestones in all of the self-publishing world. Obviously, besides the internet and the explosion of marketing channels, you know, number one, it's the Kindle. Let's face it, you know, the Kindle made a lot of things possible. Digital books, you know, 10 years ago they predicted digital books would be the only kind of books we read. That's not true, I'm happy to say. But it did open up the opportunity for folks to say, you know what, I don't need an agent. I don't need a publisher. I can go direct through Amazon. And we are very good friends with Amazon and BookBaby, of course. And I really give them a lot of credit for opening the doors, for allowing people into the marketplace, you know, in a brand new world of ebooks. The second milestone, I think, has been just as important, and that's print-on-demand technology. So you go back to the vanity presses, right? They had to run, you know, 1,000 books before they're even profitable on those huge, massive pieces of iron, the offset presses. Now, today, you can come to BookBaby or to any other self-publishing shop and say, I want exactly one book, and I want it done just as it would be done if it was on a run of 1,000 offset books. And the miracle of digital printing allows me to print, cut, bind, and ship you exactly one book, hardcover or softcover, in exactly the same quantity as if you were going to, if you were going to do a quantity of 1,000 books. That really kind of was the second breakthrough, I think, for self-publishing. So that no longer is self-publishing the consolation prize the situation where, I've been rejected by 30 agents and 30 publishers. Forget it. I guess I'll have to self-publish. Now it's becoming, you know what? Wait a minute. I can make more money by self-publishing. I can control my entire content. And frankly, there isn't a whole lot that traditional publishing is offering me anyway, even if I would go through the heartbreak and the 2-hour-long delay of getting into the traditional publishing stream. So self-publishing has emerged from this kind of gray, dark underworld of, okay, I'll do a vanity press to now the preferred way to come to the marketplace. And it's companies like BookBaby and Amazon and a lot of other really good reputable companies that are helping people to realize those publishing dreams.
Well, preferred by some people, but let's face it, when a person decides, I want to be an author, and they decide they're going to write some books, they have in mind that I'm going to turn this over to a literary agent. They're going to be dazzled by it. They're going to, in turn, exhilarate an editor at Simon & Schuster or Penguin or somewhere like that. And I'm going to get this tremendous validation of, look, we get thousands and thousands of manuscripts a year, and I've selected yours. And here's a publishing company that, in turn, has decided to publish your book. That is really the way. The traditional publishing route is what people really aspire to. However, there are not nearly enough titles published for the number of people who want to actually put a book out. And of course, there's also people out there who are, let's say they're the matriarch or patriarch of a family and decide, I just want to document the history of this family, of my coming to America, my doing this and that, and leave that for my next of kin, so that the family history survives, and maybe my children end up doing that. So what is the draw to, maybe I've answered my own question, but the draw to self-publishing is really that, look, I got rejected, and I've self-published a book through BookBaby, as a matter of fact. Not that I'm shilling for BookBaby. I just happen to have used BookBaby to publish a novel, and it was one that I put out there, got some interest from an agent or two, but ultimately was not able to get it published. So until I self-published. So what about all that? I mean, it still is a plan B, is it not?
Well, for up to the last few years, it's absolutely been a plan B. But just to use your same analogy, Mike, right now I'm thinking of going to my local market, and I'm going to buy a lottery ticket, and I aspire to be one of the few people to have picked the right 7 numbers and to be awarded with all these cash, this large check that they walk in my door with. It's a 6-foot-long check with my name on. Because frankly, that is the traditional publishing industry today. What self-publishing can allow for people is frankly one of the variables that they don't think of. All right, let's just say that I wrote a book, I finished my book today. I could either self-publish it and have it in the marketplace in 6 weeks, if everything goes right, or like 10 weeks usually, or I could start writing letters to every agent I know and get a lot of mail back, or sometimes no mail back at all. And even if I found an agent in a year, which is a typical time it takes, then that agent has to go out and push that book project to some publishers, and that typically takes another year. And then you've got the publisher's time frame that they only produce X amount of books in a 12-month period, so typically it's on a 6 to 9 month timeline. So now you've got, let's say, conservatively 2 years between finding an agent, finding a publisher, and actually finding it, show up, on Amazon. In that 2.5 years, you could have written 3 more books. And you could have learned a lot about the craft of writing and the art or science thereof of self-publishing. You would have learned how to market your book. You would have learned what your author or what your readers like about your book. So the variable of time is one that I think authors need to really think about. If they're ambitious and they want to get and be found by authors, are you really going to want to wait that long and pray that you're going to be the one to hit the lottery? So I think that's something to really seriously consider, that self-publishing can happen quickly, and you can get your story out there, and you can interact directly with your readers, whereas traditional publishing doesn't offer any of that.
Well, the hard part, to begin with, the figure I've heard is that there's 1 million books a year published in the United States. What is the figure?
It's because our friends at Amazon have a very, very opaque curtain. I would put that number at more about 1.75 million, and that's only in the U.S. And then you're going to add around the world another million books. So there's a lot of books being published every year.
Oh, yeah, as a matter of fact, yeah. I remember now, I was just looking up some self-publishing houses, and CreateSpace, which is an Amazon company, they do 1.4 million titles a year, I think. So, and then there's they dominate the space for obvious reasons, being that, Amazon's a behemoth. So now you've got the problem of, I'm trying to get people to read this book. And marketing is tremendously, it's one of two things. It's either tremendously expensive or it's tremendously time intensive. So to the typical author, a person who really wants to write a lifetime of books, they're kind of like, I want to be writing, I don't really want to be marketing, and it's not necessarily my expertise. Is it getting better today? Are there more sophisticated means of, and I know you have a marketing background, so are there more sophisticated means of marketing books today than from years past?
So you do have to look at it in terms of quality and quantity, right? We're in an era now where there are very few blockbuster hits. I mean, unless your last name is Obama, there haven't been million booksellers for a long time. Now you're seeing bestsellers with the quote marks around it, and they have 80,000 copies sold. They have 50,000 copies sold. So the numbers are definitely changing in terms of what people call bestsellers. I just want to put that out there. Mm-hmm. But you have hit the fulcrum, right? An author now, really, if they're going to be self-published, and frankly, even if they're traditionally published, because the amount of marketing support is going down, you've got to be an author/marketer, whether you like it or not. And you're right, it's either your time or your treasure. Either you can pay a publicist to do a lot of this work, or it's going to take a lot of time. And there really is no way around it, unless, as I say, you hit lightning in a bottle and you happen to get very lucky. And we have some wonderful, backstories of authors who indeed they got very lucky and their book just blew up. Most of them are on the backs of their hard work and efforts, and starting small and building a clientele and building an email and just nurturing the way in traditional marketing. There's nothing like word-of-mouth marketing. That's going to go, that started with cavemen when Og says, this fire is good. It's going to continue throughout all of humanity. And there's nothing like having the referrals from your most passionate readers, talking to their friends, and their friends talking to more, and you as an author projecting your personality and getting it out there. And it's going to start small, but it can blossom. And before you know it, spending time each day, and we advocate for people, if they spend 2 hours a day writing, they should maybe pare that down to 90 minutes a day writing and 30 minutes a day thinking about your marketing. Even before your book is finished, networking, finding communities, finding the bloggers, and if you want, finding the agents and things like that. But it is a necessary part of the equation, unless you are in the lucky few that's going to hit the lottery and is going to have Simon & Schuster fall all over themselves to find end caps for you at Walmart or Books A Million or whatever store is going to be left.
Right. Yeah. And they're frank about the whole proposition that you might have the greatest book ever written in a particular genre, but if we have that particular channel filled or pipeline filled, we're not even going to look at your book because we've already got somebody in the crime, the detective genre. So it isn't even necessarily an issue of the quality of the writing and storytelling. It's simply a matter of we've got that spot filled. I mean, they are very much, they're businesses, and they're looking to fill certain slots, and they're looking to cover their bases. And once that's done, you can't have two men on base. There's one man or one woman on base, and that's it. Talk about, you mentioned digital publishing and how that technology has changed everything. Are there some other innovations that you see coming to self-publishing, the self-publishing space that you can share with us? I mean, is something on the horizon?
Yes, there is. And it's something that we're going to be in the forefront of, although it's available now, but it's out of reach for independent authors, or should be, and that's audiobooks. Now, I have, for years, I've loved audiobooks. I used to commute a long way from my home in over to New Jersey, where our plant is. And I often did audiobooks, if not podcasts. But it's been something that we have actually recommended our authors do not do. And the reason is really simple. It's the return on investment. To do a quality audiobook today it's a $3,500 to $6,000 investment if you want the right kind of equipment, and recording equipment, Mike. You've got to have the right setup. You have to have the right narrator. You have to, you really have to invest in a book before you get $1 back. And then the price of trying to sell audiobooks to get your investment back, it can be very high too. And while the audiobook market is growing, and it's the darling right now, I think, of, and there's stars in the eyes of independent authors, once they peel back the onion and realize, oh my God, it's going to be $5,000 before I even sell one audiobook. Ouch, I don't know. And we say, look, if you've already had success in selling a lot of ebooks and a lot of printed books, you go. You do it, because it does add to your portfolio. It does add cachet to you as an author. But right now, these dollars just do not make sense. What we're doing, and what a lot of other companies are doing, this is not a commercial for us, this is going to happen in the next 18 months. The AI, the artificial intelligent voices that they're providing for audiobooks, the technology has improved leaps and bounds. 3 years ago, I was in meetings of people trying to pitch it, and you could tell it's robotic in tones. Last week, we had a meeting with a couple of firms, and they say, here's 10 files. Now, 3 of them are done by humans, and the other 7 are done by our AI voices. Pick them out. Well, I happened to pick one out just because of random. I couldn't tell the difference. I just couldn't. And these were books of all different ilks. Now, it's probably not going to work for a poetry book necessarily, or maybe an audio children's book, but those are pretty easy to produce given their size. But I think the day is coming when a self-published author can plunk down somewhere between $700 to $1,000 and have themselves a really well-done audiobook that can be added into their distribution and put on the same Amazon page right alongside their ebooks and their printed books, hardcover and or softcover, to really add to that portfolio. The technology is very close to being ready in place, and as I say, we're talking to a couple of firms about it, and I know others are too. So that would be the next great thing to kind of add in, because it's audiobooks are growing, but it's still only about 4.5% to 5% of the total reading marketplace.
Interesting. Yeah, it is a growth category for sure. And I love audiobooks. I'm with you on that. I read all day because that's what I do professionally. But it's nice if in the evening while taking a walk or working out to be able to listen.
If audiobooks came down in price to $4.99 or something like that, I think the sales would explode. And that's what it needs. It's needed this technology breakthrough to kind of take off the edge of the expenses, and I think it's going to be a big category. And
then there's a question of what percentage of the population is auditory, because some people just are not good with the listening part of it. It's like, I've got to read it. I'm not a good listener.
Right.
And I love listening. I'll fall asleep listening to with the apps today are such that you can time it for in 15 minutes stop playing, or end of chapter stop playing, so you don't end up eating up your whole audiobook and having to backtrack and try to figure out where you were. What about the AI? Makes total sense, but what about? I mean, if I write an erotic book, I can have a breathy female voice. Are you going to be able to modulate it that way? And what about?
That's a trick question, because BookBaby does not involve itself in erotica. So
other companies will for sure. But you can pick a male or female voice, and you can modulate it at all, or not?
The company we're talking to has 60 different voices, 30 female, 30 male, and they cover 58 different languages.
What about when there's dialogue? Is there any opportunity to toggle between male and female voices?
We've asked for that. Thank you. That might be a little extra, but it's a machine. And if you know that input A is coming from a large 6'4", 300-pound male, and input B is coming from a 5'3", 125-pound little waif, yeah, why not? So that's funny. That's one of the things we asked for in one of our comebacks to them. Yeah.
There's a lot of Wall Street Journal has lots of audio articles now. The Economist magazine does.
Yep.
Everybody's kind of moving in that direction because they've got, I forget the name of the service that's out there, but it's a female voice. It reads pretty monotone, unfortunately, and it sometimes mispronounces words. You don't get a lot of inflection, that sort of thing, which can be critical when you're really telling a story. Occasionally you'll hear authors who read their own stuff, and they're pretty good at it.
They are.
But that's pretty rare. So I'm with you. It's kind of like you want a professional setup and voice.
The technology or the company that we have sort of narrowed it down to, what they do is they run it through a machine first in the chosen language and the chosen voice, and then they actually have real live people then take that at about 3x speed, so that they can hear things and they can still get enough of the nuances, and it's not too fast to sound like Alvin and the Chipmunks, and they can stop it and add a little pause or modulate it a little bit to have those inflections. Is it going to be completely AI? I don't know, but we like the fact that they have this added human fail-safe, so that they don't say Willamette, the Willamette River in Oregon. It's the Willamette River. And
Willamette, damn it, that's the key. You have to tell people. Yeah, when I moved to Portland, when I lived in Portland, a coworker told me the easy way to remember it is it's Willamette, damn it, not Willamette.
Yes.
So, and I know you're a University of Oregon graduate. You're a duck, so you know that. You know about wine, Pinot Noir, and all that.
We have something here called the Schuylkill River, and God knows the spelling. I don't even want to say what I first called it, and but so to have that human just quality check at the end, it's going to raise the price a little bit, but it's going to make us all feel a whole lot better about the final product.
Right. So nowadays, a lot of people, I think, look at self-publishing and say, well, what percentage of the sale do I get? And when you look at traditional publishing, it is such a miserly percentage that some people just decide, even if I sell a lot of books, I don't make very much money. And if I can go self-publishing and I'm good at the marketing, each sale of the book means that I've got something respectable in terms of residuals.
Right.
Talk a little bit about self-publishing success stories. I mean, the biggest one, I think, maybe that we know of is E.L. James and 50 Shades of Grey. I mean, that was huge. And I mean, you talk about word of mouth, but there's not a whole lot of big-name success stories in self-publishing, are there?
Well, you've got, The Martian was a totally self-published. Twilight started out as a totally self-published book. I mean, there are some, those of course are mammoth hits, and so those, as I say, those kinds of book sales are really going to be a rarity nowadays, because it seems like the market is so diffused. Somebody selling 40,000 books has got to be jumping over the moon. So we had a person, all right. This it's a number of years ago now, but he was a Swedish psychologist, and he treats children and he works with parents to get them to behavioral type things, but especially to go to sleep. So he wrote a book called The Rabbit Wants You to Go to Sleep. And he did the illustrations, which I would say, for an illustrator, he's a really good psychologist. But the words are sort of sing-song and, had this effect, that apparently, helped kids go to sleep. So he called us up and said, "You want to do this as an ebook?" I said, "Okay," well, because he didn't want to spend a whole lot of money. So I did it as an ebook in Swedish, but he kept calling. Here's the key: every week or so, we'd get a call from him, and he said, "Sales aren't going so well. What do you think?" Well, we thought, "Well, why don't you have it translated? It's a short book. It can't cost that much to have it translated." So I did that. So now it's in 7 different languages, including English. Still not doing great. So we were throwing out ideas, saying, why don't you do a print version? Okay. And at that point, we weren't doing that. We went to CreateSpace and did some print books. And that's still, yes, he was doing okay, though. I mean, he was moving some books. But he said, I really believe in this book. So we started saying, well, I'll tell you what. Amazon now has this program. You can actually give away your book. Why don't you try to start giving it away, target some PTA groups or, Facebook groups, which are just getting off the ground at the time. See if you can do that. And yeah, he moved a ton of these free ebooks with the Rabbit Wants You to Go to Sleep. And again, he just kept at it relentlessly, asking us questions. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? Well, as luck would have it, the ebook ended up in the hands of an editor of the Guardian newspaper in London. And apparently she had a horrible kid, and the kid wouldn't go to sleep. And she used the book, and she went online, or she did an article in the Guardian and said, "Hallelujah, my rotten kid is going to sleep." I don't think she said that exactly, but it worked. My kid could go to sleep. Here's all about the psychologist, and here's how you can do it. It got picked up in their syndication deal around the world. 400 newspapers around the world picked up this article, and we watched as the marketer's dream, the hockey stick effect. If you can imagine a hockey stick where it's flat on the bottom and then it goes straight up. And for the next 3 months, we were sending our Swedish psychologist friend, big checks because it took off. And at that time, there were people who were paying for it. And he was selling the print version, he was selling the ebooks, and my gosh, it was an amazing situation. And he actually ended up being on the New York Times bestseller list, one of the very first children's book authors, self-published, to hit that list.
Wow, that's an amazing story. Now, he went strictly ebook. It's a lot less expensive to go ebook. Your prices, not your prices, it's the industry's prices have increased pretty dramatically.
Yep.
I'm looking to publish, my second one. I've got, others that are kind of sitting on ice, but the price has gone up by about $1,100. And I mean, the first one I published was about $1,300. That was in print and ebook.
Yep.
Ebook alone, of course, is a lot less expensive, but there's still a lot of people who want a physical book, and also, there's something about being able to mail to friends or family members a copy of a freshly printed book.
Right.
What has been driving? I mean, I suspect paper costs have gone up a lot. We're seeing inflation everywhere right now, but what's been the big drivers of cost escalations?
Well, in our packages, and again, this is not a commercial for BookBaby, nor it was intended to, but I mean, we are certainly seeing huge increases in paper and even materials like glue, and just every area it's just been slammed with big price increase. What we have done though is we've bundled things together in knowing that authors kind of want these services. Now they can buy them a la carte from us, but a lot of them need editing. Some books do. A children's book typically does, but almost every other kind of book does editing. And we do that, but they can have it done by somebody else. They really need cover design. God, if you only have a few seconds to impress somebody on an Amazon page, my God, invest in the cover design. And your sister who graduated from the City College of Art is not a book cover designer. You got to use a pro. Interior design, it's one of those things that you don't see it on the outside, but boy, when it's been not done, it's like housework. You can always tell when it hasn't been done because it's messy. It's unpleasant, and somebody doesn't want to read your book. So we've actually added a lot of things in to our packages because we know authors want it. We discount it from there, and just knowing we try to make life simple. It's like, look, if you want to self-publish, we listen to you. What are your goals? What are you going to do? Here's what we recommend. If they want to do something different, that's fine. But we do recommend some of these things to really kind of launch them into the marketplace. And one of our unspoken mottos for all of our brands has always been, we want to make the little guy look big. We want to make it so that if your book manages to end up on the shelves of Barnes & Noble, that they're not going to be able to tell that your book is self-published with a self-published cover, with a self-published interior design. No, you're going to look just as professional, and maybe more so, if I may say, than some of these mass-produced books now that are kind of getting the short shrift. So, but yeah, shipping costs are just going crazy. And I do have a glimmer of hope. We think that by the fourth quarter, things are going to loosen up nicely in the book world. We see that paper is going to be much more available. That should bring some price reductions back down, and that'll be a happy day for us.
So what should a writer out there looking to self-publish be on guard about with respect to, there's a lot of options out there. What are some of the options that are out there that it's kind of like, just be aware that this may not be a good thing for you? I mean,
sure.
What's the dark side? What's the dark underbelly of the self-publishing business these days?
Sure. Well, I won't specifically name names, but I would if you let me to. But I mean, frankly, first off, though, there are far more high-quality, companies out there like BookBaby who really do right by the author. So I'm happy to say that 90% of the players out there are reputable. Here's the two things that I would look for immediately. Number one, go online and look at review. Look at Trustpilot. We don't subscribe to the Better Business Bureau just because that was a corporate decision. We go through Trustpilot, and we have you can read the reviews and see what people say about us, and then check out the other companies that you're looking at. Number two, do they have 100% guarantee? And we guarantee everything, and I think every company should. And the third one's a real fun one. Any company that you're considering, ask for their physical address, and then go on Google Maps and find them. Because some of the not-so-savory players think that a mail stop in the middle of Wyoming at a UPS store constitutes a book factory. We're always happy to share our address. It's 7905 North Route 130, Pennsauken, New Jersey. You put that into Google Maps and you see a big, giant building that's getting solar panels installed on it this week, as a matter of fact, and a big, giant parking lot that now is covered with solar panels as a parking garage. Make sure that they are what they are. Make sure they do things in-house, do it themselves. But again, the guarantees and reviews, it's a great way to get an idea of who's performing well. And then, one other resource. There's a great blog post called Author Beware, and it's written by Victoria Strauss. And it's part of the sci-fi writers, but sort of as an adjunct. But she does this as a public service, and she has a great list of companies and agents, including its publishers, its agents, its self-publishing companies who have ran afoul. And she is one strict lady. I bet in her former life she was a nun in a Catholic school with a ruler rapping on people's knuckles. Because by God, you do not want to get on the bad side of Victoria Strauss. And I'm happy to say we are well within her approval meter. But she's a great one. It's Author Beware by Victoria Strauss is her blog. Or Writer's Beware. One of the two. It's either Writer Beware or Author Beware. I don't know at the moment. But Victoria Strauss, just Google her and you'll find out who the bad actors are. And you'll find out who the good actors are, too.
Very useful information there. So, final question, Steven. Anytime a traditional publisher is putting a book out, they're taking a gamble. Obviously, it's an investment. You don't know if it's really going to fly or not. I always thought that the self-publishing industry would be a godsend to them because what they can do is look at what's out there. Who is really actually selling? They put a book out there and they're selling. And maybe they're selling in part because the author is good at marketing, which even traditional publishing companies this day, they want you to have an oar in the water. They want to know you're going to go out there and push your book. Don't just leave it to us. We want you to be pushing it as well. So do you see any dynamic like that going on where traditional publishers are paying attention to self-publishing sales and are actually trying to identify that this has already shown some market lift, so we can maybe give this one a boost, bring them into the traditional marketplace and give them a boost and go from there?
Mike, it's happening every minute of the day. Think of, if you want to, and if authors are so disposed to think of it this way, self-publishing could be the baseball farm system, right? We are your AAA affiliate in Trenton, New Jersey. That is the affiliate for the New York Yankees. All right. Traditional publishers are looking at our books all day long. And not only that, they're calling us about them.
What are they saying when they call? What are they asking you?
We're happy to talk to them about it because, I mean, again, and I can only speak for BookBaby here, but one of the greatest things to have happen for us is for an author to self-publish, find success, and guess what? They get to land a six-figure contract with a major publisher. And you know what we do? We clap and applaud because our job is, and our goal is, we've tried to make them look great on the marketplace. And while we might lose them as a client, you know what? They're going to tell about 15 other author friends about how they made it along the way, and they owe all their success to the fact they self-published a BookBaby or any of the other companies out there. No, we welcome this, and we've had many success stories. In fact, the author I just told you about, the psychologist, Carl Johan, yeah, he signed a seven-figure contract, and I forgot what publishing company it was. I think it was Penguin, to do 3 more kids' books. And we're thrilled about that. I mean, that really is sort of our mission in life here, is to help people realize their dreams. Now, a lot of them, however, have stayed self-publishing because they're making a lot more money that way, and they're quite happy to control their own empire. But if your dream is traditional publishing, I'll tell you, the best route to do that, it's not to send a bunch of agent query letters. It's not to send a bunch of letters to publishers and manuscripts. Self-publish it, establish a track record, let publishers find you and agents find you, because they'll see the traffic to your pages, and they'll see if you have a successful blog, and if you're marketing yourself, they'll look at your Twitter feed, they'll look at your Facebook, did you set it up for your book, on and on and on and on. And they're going to say, ooh, that's not a risk, that's a sure bet. I'm going to talk to this person and see if I can entice them into a contract. And some authors say, great, sign me up, like Carl Johan did. And others say, nah, no, thank you. I kind of like the way things are.
Yeah. I would imagine a traditional publisher then, because the royalty with self-publishing is higher, that it would put traditional publishers under some pressure to cut a better deal with that author. If you want me to move over, then I need more than 3 cents per sale. I need something, because this is what I'm making now. I realize you're going to be putting marketing muscle behind this project, but I need to have more than what than what you would offer the first time to your average first time author.
Right. And even established authors, and I cannot name names here, but they're tied into ironclad publishing contracts that date back to the 1950s and have been upheld in court 1,000 times. But they've come to us under an assumed pen name, and the person right now in my mind does these mystery thrillers that sell millions through his publisher, but he also likes to write romance novels, and he does that under another name. And he's doing really well through BookBaby. And we have at least a couple of dozen of these kind of clients who they do both. They enjoy their traditional, or they're kind of locked into their traditional publishing contract, but they're kind of writing on the side and doing their own side hustle, which is kind of fun.
Yeah, not unusual, because they're trying to protect their brand name in a particular genre, but then a lot of times they're writing literature, and that's what they really want to do, but then they pick a genre to be in because genres tend to sell more books. So, for instance, romance is a huge sales area, just like detective novels and sci-fi and so on. So, well, our guest has been Steven Spatz. He is the founder and president emeritus of BookBaby, again, one of the country's many self-publishing houses for book authors. Steven, this has been enlightening.
Mike, it's been fun. Thanks a lot.